Welcome to the autobiography of Rebel K. Not all of my recollections and memories are intact, but I will try to account as much information as I possibly can throughout this journey. My adoption starts right off the bat, as my bio mom, Lynn Marie Farnham, had signed me over the day she birthed me to her best friend Sally Ann Mills, and she left the hospital. Those accounts were from my aunts. So it was automatic. On their accounts, she was in between homes, always had different boyfriends. They had said that she was on substances and out of control of sorts. So at the hospital, I was born at Waterville Memorial Hospital, September 2nd, 1982, at 5:30 in the afternoon. I don't have no recollection of Maine other than what it looks like in image of my mind. I wasn't there very much or very long. I came to Florida when I was 5. And in the process, Maine was having a really bad snow blizzard, and the snow was up to the windows. I believe she had said it was 3 to 4 feet. I don't know how we traveled. I don't know if we flew. I don't know if we drove. But we came to Florida when I was 5. My last memory of Maine before we traveled is me in my little red snowsuit, all bundled up with my gosh, I can't remember the name of them, wader boots, snow boots, black rubber bottoms with the fabric top, and I had the little fur around the edges on the top, and I had red mittens on, playing in the snow. It's about 2-3 feet in the snow, and my head is just sticking out with my arms. And then we moved to Florida. From that into 80, 90, or above humidity weather. I automatically got pneumonia and ended up in the hospital. It turned into double pneumonia somewhere along the line. And I had lost consciousness a couple of times and had came back. These are counts from my mother and my sister. And my first memory of our residency was on the beach side of New Smyrna. We lived in this 2-story brown wooden house that was old. My mom loved finding old houses that were haunted. My sister was 16 years old. I was a massive animal level then as well as now, to which is why I would cringe every time my brother John would stand on the 2nd-story balcony and shoot down birds and turn around and laugh at me and say, "There you go, KK, there's dinner." Every being of my body cringed as I shook my head, turned around, and just walked out. I hated the fact that he had such a sick, morbid sense of humor like that. and could very easily just include animals like that and say six nasty stuff. Sometimes stuff that could turn your stomach. And he would think it's a joke. Funny. He would laugh it off. Then walk by me and tell me how sensitive I was. How too sensitive I was. My mom would tell me as I got older that when we lived in that house, and I don't have many memories of that house, bits and pieces, that I would always go, because our house was behind the 7-Eleven, and across the street was the beach. So she would always tell me I would go stand in front of 7-Eleven with my hairbrush and I would sing to the people coming in and out of the store. And of course I would laugh. You know, as kids, we're fearless. We don't fear much of anything. But as we grow, that kind of grows. And sometimes, most of the times, not always the case. I was a fearless child. A little rebellious. But I think most kids are. Throughout this story, unfortunately, I can just recount memories of things that I've been through, seen, heard, endured, encountered, and thereof. Our second residence that I remember was in New Smyrna Beach over by the railroad tracks. Kind of over by Main Street. Not Main Street. Main Street is Daytona. But Canal Street. There we go. And off to the left there's railroad tracks. And then on the right of that, you go down that road, there's a housing development. And we lived in a house on the left with a big screened-in porch and a big backyard. My mom had raised this macaw since it was an egg. Her name was Zeba. My best friend at the time. We got along so well. We spent so much time together. I miss her so much. And hated the fact that my mom had gotten rid of her. But that is later down the road. She had the big black cage, the stand-up cage, and she would always grab my mom by her hair and just swing it around, and then she would laugh and cackle, shaking her head up and down. But for years we thought it was a man. She would call it a boy. And then, close to the end, we found out it was a female. And I would tell my mom, well, now I know why she would grab your hair in her beak and shake it. Because she's telling you, I'm not a man, I'm a woman. And somewhere in me, I knew she was female. I don't know what it was. But we clicked. We had a very, very close bond. Zeba loved KK. She was a green-winged macaw. My mom had her wings clipped so she couldn't escape or fly away. But she had broken one of her wings. And it had to be bandaged up. I remember having an image of Zeba's wing bandaged. Her right wing, I believe. So, in that house, Halloween was rearing around, and my brother Joe. No, my brother Joe was in the military. He was serving in Afghanistan. My brother John was at the house. It was me, my sister, Billy, my mom, and me. Joe lived there also, but he was serving. It was rearing around Halloween, and I slept on a futon in the sunroom. And when I had laid down to go to sleep, my brother John had hid in the laundry room closet, and he had taped knives to his fingers. When I got up to go to the bathroom, I saw scratches on the wall behind the couch. I didn't really think too much of it because I wasn't too much into the overthinking stuff then. I was about I was about 6 years old in that house. And then when I had come back and I had sat on the couch and I had wiped my hands over my face, just, you know. And I looked up and I saw him. He was in the whole get-up, the silicone pullover mask, the red sweater. He wore it all. And he sat there clinging his fingers on his hands on the wall and said, "Remember me." And he was so good at playing his voice. The next thing I remember is falling to the ground, dropping to my knees, and just passing out. When I came to, there was no one there. It was just me. At first, I thought I was hallucinating, or that it was a bad dream. So I kind of shook it off and I laid back down to go to sleep. My family went out of their way to torment me and scare the crap out of me. They thought it was funny. They would laugh their asses off. It was the funniest thing ever to them. And of course, it was my sister Belle. I do believe she was 18 at this point. 17 or 18, because when she was 16 living in the other house, she was getting ready to turn 17. So, that was that. And I don't remember too much. I used to hang out when we lived in that housing development. There was this lady, she owned a lawn business. I loved her to death. She was such an amazing person. She drove this white van. She had this little hefty son. I don't remember his name, but he was a little hefty. I believe he was 10 or 11 years old. And would ride his bike around. We became really, really close best friends. We became really, really close best friends. I believe she even took me and him trick-or-treating one year together. We had fun. She would always give me candy and stuff. She was an awesome lady. She truly was. You know, I'll never forget her and her son. They were cool-ass people. I want to say her name was Diane or something like that, but I cannot remember. I think she dated one of my brothers for a while. I'm not sure. But, of course, that was the beginning. And the middle. There's a lot of accounts that are not accounted for. And of course, I will get to that eventually, because I don't want to jump ahead. I remember we moved to Mango Tree Estates in Edgewater. It may have been New Smyrna. It was a trailer park. My stepdad, Vern, I'm not sure when Billy was not a thing. But, oh, okay, hold on. Before that, okay. The house on the beach side was the second residence, and the house in New Smyrna was the third. The first place we moved to in Florida when I was 5 is me and my mom lived on a farm. She had this little small house thing. And we had geese, we had chickens, we had ducks. It was a small little quaint farm. She had a sheepdog, which we didn't have no sheep, so that didn't make no sense. But, or a herding dog. And I remember the rooster would go off every morning at like 4:30 in the morning. Wake us up. And she would say, if you want breakfast, you better go out to that chicken coop and get the eggs, or you're not eating breakfast this morning. So I did. A lot of the time that I went out and collected the eggs, the chickens would chase me, and I would fall, and then I would have them wrapped up like in my shirt, and it would smash all over. And we have like 3 eggs that were okay, 4 eggs maybe. And they would laugh at me and go, well, there goes breakfast, as they look at each other. And I stand up, and I don't cry. I wasn't that sensitive. I would just look at them both, and she'd be like, well, go clean yourself up. We'll figure something else out. But that rooster, boy, did that rooster go out of his way to torment me every morning. And when I would come out, I would put my hands on my side and look at him and say, you're not funny. And he would do that cockle-doodle-doo in my face, shifting his head towards me really loud, and did the whatever sound they did to laugh. I was like, he's laughing at me. Yeah. Yes. I'll tell you, I couldn't even explain what kind of childhood I had growing up, because I don't even know what to classify it under or as. And of course, in those times, I didn't even think like, oh, this stuff is not normal. But, you know, I was too young to understand everything that was going on, or why something was or wasn't. And, I would always say that I didn't have Christmases growing up. But pretty much you could say that. Like, I would always get these dolls, you know, those cheap plastic dolls where their heads would pop off. Or their legs. And, you know, you can bend the arm like a thin plastic. Half the hair is missing out of their head, you know. I would get like maybe one thing a year, where I would see all my cousins and everything just flourishing. You know, being spoiled. Getting whatever the hell they want. And I remembered, I found out really quick that Santa Claus did not exist. This is when I was 7 years old. I was staying at my sister's house, sleeping on her couch. And I swore to myself in my mind that I was going to stay up all night. And I was going to watch to see if he came. And all I saw was 3 a.m. And my sister and my brother-in-law were putting presents under the tree. And she turned around and said, KK, go to sleep. I closed my eyes, but I didn't go to sleep. I waited till they went back in the room, and I stayed up the rest of the night with my eyes open. Next thing I know, the sun was coming in the windows, and everybody was getting up to open up Christmas presents. At that point, I knew Santa Claus isn't real. Our parents do our shopping for us. And that was a big realization for me. Because what kid doesn't want to believe in Santa Claus? And reindeer clacking their hoofs against your roof. Hot cocoa and nestling around the tree. Yeah, I guess this stuff is just made for Hallmark movies, right? Not for real life situations. That is pretty deafening to a 7-year-old girl, or a 7-year-old child in general. But back to the Mango Tree Estate, which will be the last account of this video. Last account of this part. Me, my mom, my stepdad, Vernon, Gene, Webb. We're at Winn-Dixie one day shopping for groceries. And I look over, I'm standing in the parking lot, and there's this 1-year-old golden retriever weaving in and out of traffic. The horns are going, you know. And I'm frantic. Oh my God, Vern, go get the dog. I want to take it home. Go get the dog. And I'm screaming, and at this time I am crying and tearing. And he says, you're not going to I said, go get the dog before something happens. We took that dog home. And me and that dog were best friends. The best of friends. She had nothing but utmost respect for me. That dog would protect me and guard me against anything. Even Vern. Apparently she was sick. And I didn't know that she was sick. So I got her when she was a year old. 8 years old. I am. My mom's home. Just sitting there reading a book in the living room on the couch. I take my dog out to go to the bathroom and do her business. Worst mistake of my life. The landlord's 2 Dobermans came running over in our yard while my dog was squatting to take a dump. And one was at her neck. The other one was at her back. And she was so defenseless, and this affects me because standing there knowing I couldn't do nothing for her. And all I could do is scream, and I knew if I went over there, those dogs would rip me apart. And I screamed for my mom. Mom, get her, call somebody, please, get help. She just stood there at the stairs and said, oh, nonchalantly, there's nothing you can do. Vern's working. And I screamed and I cried just for anybody to hear, to run over. And she laid there and they left. And then Vern came home. And she was just laying there. I walked over and she had put her head on my lap. And she looked at me and I seen her tear come out of her eyes. And she just gave me that look like it's time. I gotta go. And I cried so hard. I yelled and wrapped my arms around her neck and I just put my head down to her head and I cried so hard. And Vern said, I'll take her. She's got to get put down. I said, no, don't kill my dog. He said, KK, she's already gone. She's suffering. You want her to suffer? I said, no. He told me later, as I grew an adult, that he put her in a bag, took her out to the orange grove, and shot her in the head. And then buried her. Even as an adult, I broke. I broke because all that time I didn't know what happened to my dog. And he wouldn't tell me. But when I got older, he told me. And it broke everything in me. It broke my spirit. Not the fact that she was already sick, but the fact that, being a child or not, you didn't have the decency to tell me the truth. It was my dog. You gotta tell me something. I mean, he could have even lied to me and said something, to make me feel better. But he told me nothing. He just said, you don't need to worry about your head. You don't need to worry your head off about that. And, in Mango Tree Estate, though, I helped Vernon build my mom's trailer. Because it was just a lot. And, me and Vern would build the trailer. Just me and him. Sometimes my brother-in-law, Glenn, would help. But it was mainly just me and Vernon. But, that's the first segment. And, we'll pick back up on the second segment of the autobiography of Rebel K.